Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's definitely been a while. So since my last video, a few sets have dropped in Magic, a few things have changed. And one of the hot new things from Kaldheim that I'm sure a lot of people know about already, this new card, Valki, God of Lies. So the important thing with this is that it's a new split card, and then on the back side, there is a 7-mana Planeswalker that does some things, kill some creatures, get some card advantage, and then the ultimate lets you play like everything from either player's graveyard, which is pretty sweet. Now 7 mana is a lot for Legacy, and most of the time we're not going to be casting this. The trick with this card is that because the front side is 2 mana, you can Cascade into this, and then the wording on Cascade says that. Thanks, Magic Online. The wording on Cascade says that you reveal cards until you reveal a card that costs less than this card. So in this case, our Cascaders cost 3 mana. The front side, or when you flip over Valki, it's a 2 mana spell, so it satisfies Cascade. And then it says, and then you may cast the card. So you reveal a valid card, Valki, and then when you choose to cast it, you choose which half of the side you're casting. So you choose to cast Tibble, which is a neat little rules interaction. We'll see if this is how it will work going forward. As of now, these split cards are only the CMC of the front card. That might change in the future. But for now, this is what you are allowed to do, and it's something that I have had fun playing with from a deck building perspective. So there's a few different builds running around, but this is one that I like a lot. I think the two most common builds are there's like a 5-color build, which with a bunch of mana confluences and City of Brasses that plays Ardent Plea, which is a blue-white 1 Cascade card as well, so that you have more Cascade spells in your deck. Then there's a straight Teamer version, which is a little bit more similar to this, but then it has a little bit more disruption in the main deck. It'll have like a couple more Mystical Disputes, the full Force of Negation playset, things like that. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me explain kind of what the deck is trying to do. So, I explained the Valki interaction. This deck is a very all-in, build of trying to get this to work. So the only card you play that costs less than 3 mana is Valki. And then you're playing 8 Cascade spells, so 4 Shroudless Agent, 4 Violent Outburst, and then you're playing a bunch of Simian Spirit Guides and Elvish Spirit Guides so that you can try to get this out on turn 1 or turn 2. Cascade into the 7-mana Planeswalker on turn 2, pretty strong. Turn 1, obviously, even stronger. And then you do have somewhat of a backup plan where you have a couple copies of Oko, a couple copies of Uro that you can play kind of as like your plan B if the plan A doesn't work. And then you have a bunch of counter magic to help this work. So you have 4 Force of Wills, 4 Misdirections, which is a card you don't see very often in Legacy, but what it does is it lets you change the target of a spell with a single target. So if you're fighting a counter war and your opponent tries to Force of Will your Valki, you can misdirect it and change the target to misdirection. So it's basically just Force of Wills 5 through 8, and they let you fight a counter war on your turn, which Force of Negation does not. So just really quick, a few of the things I'm doing differently than I think a lot of builds are is, one, I'm playing more lands. So I have 21 mana sources here. I think most lists are running like 18 or 19, which to me, it's a little bit insane in my mind. The power differential between your good draws and your bad draws is so huge in this deck. It's like the difference between like a power level 9 draw and a power level 1 draw is usually just like a single mana source. So I think you just want to put more lands in your deck. As I'm playing 1 Waterlogged Grove, so that I do have some flood insurance if I happen to draw too many lands. And the other big thing I'm doing differently is I'm playing 4 copies of Risefall. This is a split card from Dissension. So 90% of the time you're using it to cast Fall, which is a sorcery. It's kind of like Hymn to Turok, but if your opponent reveals any land cards randomly, they don't discard them. And then, so I'd say you cast it as the Fall mode about like 90-95% of the time. But then Rise says return target creature card from a graveyard and target creature on the battlefield to their owner's hands. So this is kind of like some late game utility, say your Valki has been killed. and very late in the game, you can return it to your hand, bounce an opponent's creature, maybe replay it for the front half or even the back half. If like Starless Agent was discarded from your hand somehow, you could rebuy that and play it again as another Cascade. So the back half has some utility, but it's mainly played for the front, the fall half. And then because of split cards are the combined mana cost of both cards, you don't have to ever worry about cascading into it. It's a CMC 4 card. And then it's also blue for your forces. So it's been a really nice include in the deck. It gives you some, a little bit more interaction for, to strip some counter magic out of your opponent's hand before you're trying to combo, as well as some late game grinding power. And then just real quick, I want to mention the sideboard. So I think some of your tougher matchups are like 2 of the bigger decks in the format are Delver and Snow, and I think these can be tough matchups. So the green creature sideboard is something I found to be effective. Tarmogoyf in particular is very nice against Delver. It's one of those things where, it's so good against Delver that I don't mind having the ability to cascade into it with some of my Cascade guys. You'll notice the other cards in the deck you can't cascade into, except for Collector Ufe, which is, similar. Like, you really don't want to have anything other than Tibalt for these cards to hit unless it's like an incredibly good card. And I think Tarmogoyf is actually that good against Delver. Then I have Shifting Ceratops and Thrun. These can come in against Delver. They're mainly for Snow, just as like a, can't be countered card that is difficult to deal with, can't be Pyroblasted, and then, pressures the life total quickly, or pressures Teferi, because Teferi's passive stops the Cascade cards from working because they are still on the stack when you are choosing what spell to cast off them. So this is my list. I am in a league. I'm 2 matches down, so I'm going to play out the other 3 for us here, and we'll see how the deck goes. Hope to be cascading into some Tibalts. Okay. Let's get going. All right, here we are for the first match. I'm on the draw. This hand is no lander, has 2 mana sources, but I think that we would need to draw a green mana source, not just any mana source, to be able to cast these. And then if anything bad happens, it's not good. So I am going to mulligan this one. Let's see, what does this one do? So say I bottom this, has force, blue card, and then it just needs 1 mana source. So I'm going to keep this. I'm going to bottom the Thrun because it's not really useful here. And then we're going to say go. And if in my first 2 draw steps I draw a red or black land, I can cast this fall. That counts. So yeah, and this is one of the things I like about, especially about fall, is that it can help set up your turn before you want to cascade. So you can do this on turn 2 and then cascade on turn 3. They have an uncounterable Lord of Atlantis, so that's going to happen. So let's see what we draw. Backup Cascade spell is definitely not bad at all, especially against like these more tribal matchups. Sometimes they can attack down the first copy of Tibalt. So let's fetch. One thing that's a little bit difficult with this 4-color build is setting up the mana. So usually what I like to do is get green, black, and blue, red. And this gives you all 4 colors. It has red and green separately so that you can get the red green on Violent Outburst. It has blue and green separately, which lets you get the blue and green on Shardless, and then it can cast Fall. We flipped Merfolk Trickster and True Name Nemesis. Hitting the True Name is really good because that is one that Valki cannot actually kill. So I'm very happy to hit that. They also F6 through the turn, so they likely did not have any interaction in their hand, like Forcible or Daze or something like that. So it's looking pretty good for this. That's fine. For this Tybalt. Now the downside of that is that I am going to have to tick down. I could just fall again, take the last 2 cards out of their hand, but then I'm taking 6 plus 4 is 10. That's a lot of damage. So unfortunately, I think I need to just do this. So you cascade into Tybalt. Yeah. And then I will tick down on one of these creatures. Have a blocker for the other one. The Mutavault will still get to attack and kill Tybalt, which is unfortunate. But then hopefully that takes up the whole turn. And then hopefully the second Tybalt can kind of get it done. We also have the option to cast Uro. If we draw a Mana Source, we also have the option to cast Fall and then just play out the Master. Which, especially if they don't play a land for turn, it's definitely our preferred play. And they didn't play a play. They didn't make a play, so it makes me feel like they really have a 3 mana play in their hand. So I think I just want to cast Fall again. Hopefully strip the last 2 cards out of their hand. So we did. Glass of Mimic, Glass of Oracle. I'm surprised they didn't just play out this Oracle as a 1/3, but I guess they're saving it for their combo. So now what do I want to do? I could just play out this Pearl Trident and then look to race. Or am I saving it for like a bigger turn where like I can use it as a mana source to escape Uro? I'm gonna play this out. And now the funny thing about this Lord of Atlantis is that it pumps all Merfolk. This one only pumps others that I control. So it's giving my guy +1/+1, which is also their guy. So my thought process is the next Tybalt is likely also going to have to tick down, at which point I'm just stealing their creatures. And so I want to just be able to steal their guys and start racing. And then hopefully Uro can swing the damage race in the future. So yeah, can't block this one. Useless. That's good. That's actually close. Huh. So I'm thinking about now which Cascader I want to use. This is a blue card for force, so like if they draw, like a non, if they draw like a non Merfolk spell that I want to counter, it would be nice to not have to pitch Uro. But this is a creature that attacks, so I'm going to play this one. Get rid of that. Ooh, yeah. So I probably could have. I forgot that my guy would no longer get buffed, and I don't think they would have blocked here. So I think I missed a point of damage there, but the opponent has seen enough. So against Merfolk, I like Dispute. I like the removal. Oof is probably not good enough. I think the green creatures don't do enough. Like, they basically just attack with Island Walk. Massacre's in the sideboard for death and taxes, obviously. I think it's too slow to kill enough things. Like, I think by the time you can cast Massacre, most of their guys are going to be bigger than 2/2s. And I have 4 cards to cut. I think it's just going to be the misdirections. The only thing Misdirection is really good against is like their counter magic. Force and Negation at least can stop like Aether Vial, but I guess it can't stop their Force of Wills on my Cascade. Okay, I think I'm gonna split the difference here. Get rid of a few Misdirections and then 1 Force Negation, and then run it like this. Right, so this is a turn 2 Tibalt, and then turn 3 Uro with a bunch of mana sources to put into play. Oh, sorry, no, what am I talking about? No, it's not. I don't have a Cascader. So then is this hand a mulligan? What does this do? In theory, I could turn 1 Valki. They're a creature-based deck. That might be good. It could pass on turn 1, then turn 2 Valki, then turn 3 Uro. It could do turn 2 Uro. So I know you're supposed to mulligan pretty aggressively with this deck, but I'm really close to wanting to keep it. It feels like it almost feels like it does just enough to want to keep it. We have a, this, okay, so this is probably a bad play. I'm going to keep this for science. I'm still learning the deck. We're going to go on this journey together. It has interaction, and it has a good creature card in the matchup. And if I ever draw any of my 8 Cascade spells, I have the option to do it on turn 2. I think you're about 20% to draw 1 in 2 draw steps. So, so that's good. So then the question is, do I want to play turn 1 Valki past turn 2 and do things on turn 3? Or do I want to do something big on turn 2? I would almost rather play Valki just because this lets me know if I want to play around like Days or Forcible or something. So this is not a common play. But I think because of the nature of Merfolk, the fact that they have a lot of creatures to steal and they have counter magic, that makes, going all in on turn 3 not necessarily good. Makes me want to do this. So that's pretty good that they forced pitching Lord of Atlantis. It means we might be dead, though, I think is the unfortunate issue. Because if they Paradigm Shift, if they're like forcing to protect the combo in their deck, that could be bad for us. Oh, they play Standstill. What? That's weird. Well, now we understand why they forced. The thing is, we have a bunch of land drops because we're playing 21 mana sources. And they don't have any pressure in play. So I almost don't mind sitting here for a while. The Force of Negations have been good pickups for sure. That was probably bad. I think I should have played out this one. Yeah, that was foolish of me. So one thing you can do is you can Violent Outburst and the opponent's end step, which has a few good properties. The first being that you can use your Force of Negations to fight a counter war. And the second being that against Standstill, in the end step, they would be forced to go to discard if they draw up to 8 cards in hand. All right, now so let's say I Violent Outburst. They go up to 10 cards in hand. They force pitch blue card down to 8, and they still have to discard a card. Or do I wait one turn? I'm going to wait one turn just because they've been missing land drops. I think it would have been fine to play it there, but just because they haven't done anything with their mana, and I don't necessarily have the best follow-up. I have Uro, which is like good, but not great. If they have to go to discard this turn, I am going to fire it off. So now this standstill is going to be... I'm just going to let them go to discard. That's fine. Yeah. I think the first turn they hit their land drop is when I'm going to go. Or maybe not, I don't know. Well, now that I'm about to go to discard, I think it makes more sense to do such a thing. All right, I'm going to go. It's time. So we have blue, green, blue. So let's get green. Let's get a Bayou. Oh, that's so interesting. They, because I'm doing it on their end step. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. So I guess if they play something like Stifle, they don't get to draw the cards, but because I'm casting this, Standstill is going to trigger again. So they get the full 10 cards before they start fighting the counter war, which I think is funny. So if they counter this, which they likely will, obviously, I'm going to let it resolve because they still have to go to discard, and I don't want to start fighting a counter war and let them, use all their counter magic to avoid going to discard. And then next turn I can decide either to play it again or play Uro. These two spells are likely going to the graveyard, so I will have 4 or 5 cards in the graveyard. I have a feeling this is a Hydroblast. Or a Brazen Borrower. What? Well, now I'm just... Their hand must have been awful if they didn't have any counter magic. I'm so confused. Or maybe they misplayed or misclicked or something. I don't know. So Standstill was draw 3, discard 3. Good card. Why are they waiting on upkeep? Okay, so plus. I'm not sure what's happening. I'm gonna stop pretending to know what's happening. So yeah, let's just play Uro. Blue, blue. We have no black cards in hand, so let's just use this one. Green. So 3. I could. I'm gonna play around Daze. And just try to escape it next turn. The one downside of this deck is that it's kind of hard to escape Uro multiple times as compared to other decks that play it, because they play like a ton of 1-mana spells and cantrips and whatnot. So, usually you're only getting it one time over the course of a game. And so I'd rather not lose it to a card that might be in my opponent's hand. Given everything they've done, I can't imagine any other card in their hand except for like Daze. Yeah, that's fine. So that is the third Valki, which unfortunately means that the Cascades don't hit anything anymore. But I'm hoping that we're far enough ahead that it doesn't really matter. So we have triple greens, so we can... Oh, yeah, okay, let's just do this. I'm going to lead on Valki, just so that I can see kind of what they're working with. Give me more information on what I want to do with my plays. And that is another nice thing about this deck, is that, like, the front side of the card is a perfectly reasonable Magic card. Like, obviously it's not... Okay. It's difficult deck, or difficult set of cards to beat, I think. Maybe it is. I don't know. So they have double Paradigm Shift, uncounterable Thassa's Oracle, and Force blue card. So if I play this Uro, I don't have enough to heart. I would. So I could force negation one. They force blue card back. I force pitch another. Then they just cast it again. But I almost think I need to leave up hardcast force negation. I'm almost just like not in a rush, so yeah. Let's pass. Especially because they're playing back to basics too. Like that might be the thing they decide to run out the next turn. But I think there are worlds where I could win if I tap out, but I think it's just safer and more likely for me to win if I held up my mana. Yep, so this is what I thought might happen. So I'm going to cast this, obviously tapping my basics. Red is probably less useful than... yeah, red casts Valiant Outburst. Black only casts Rise Fall. And we have a Valiant Outburst in hand. So let's just hard cast Force Negation. They don't pitch the Force of Will, which makes sense. It's probably what I would do if I were the opponent. Unironically, a good draw because it will help us hardcast some things later. potentially. I actually don't know how many lands are in my deck left. No matter, we're going to escape the Uro, tapping some basic lands, though I don't know if it matters. Then we need to tap double green, so green, and I want double blue left up, so I still do have that. So let's just do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna fetch once because I want to leave the Valki in the graveyard in case I draw a Rise Fall. Okay. I don't have a Merfolk to reveal in my hand for the Silver Gill, so I'm not going to pay the 5 for it, at least not yet. So there's the paradigm shift that we know about. So they have Force, Shift, Oracle, and 2 unknowns. We could actually hardcast this Force of Will with the 2 guides, but I think it's better to pitch the blue card. So I think I just want to force this as well. I know, unfortunately, they're going to force back. What do they pitch? Standstill. So we unfortunately don't have that much time to win this game. Because they have 7 cards in library, and we're going to have 4 devotion. Luckily, they need to attack here, so that's good. Otherwise, I get to... oh no, they don't have to attack, but they're going to, so that I can't ult. That's good. Oh, they do actually, because I could have, yeah. Okay, so what I could have done was I could have changed this to the name Thassa's Oracle, then ulted Tibble, played my Valki, and stolen their Thassa's Oracle. Oh, and that's actually kind of annoying. It's actually very annoying that so basically what we need to do now is find fall. Oh, that's a good card too. Okay, so they will have 6 cards. So if they draw one of their just trying to figure out. Yeah, I think I need to do this. I don't think there's a punish. Force of Will, Mystical Dispute. Okay. The Force of Will is actually a pretty good pickup because it means that if they draw a Lord, I can force it, or they can't Lord plus this on the same turn. Alright, so I'm going to start by, let's think, 9. So if I attack for 9, then they go down to 7, and then, yeah, I think that's better. No, oh no, because I need, okay, sorry. I need the blue card in hand for force, right? So if I attack for 8, they go down to 8, and then I play out these 2 guys. And then the next turn I can attack for 9 damage. Alright, yeah, let's start with attacking. I think it's not a 1-point difference, so we want to see what we draw first. Okay. So I'm going to cast this. Green, blue, blue. I'm going to cast this. Red, blue, whatever. And then now what we can do is we can play Oko. We have enough for Mystical Dispute, and then we have Force. So yeah, okay, so green, green, blue. I'm sorry for taking my time with this. This is not a very common matchup. So basically, I think they can't win this turn because I can, yeah, see, so I can force, or I can counter this so that they don't have enough devotion for the Thassa's Oracle in their hand. So they're 1 short of winning the game. And if they block this, they're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They don't even know about the Outburst, but obviously I have one. So they need to play this as a chump blocker. Wow, what a crazy game. Whew. Yeah, so from their point of view, they need to play as a chump blocker. What they don't know is I'm technically for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 anyway, because of the Valiant Outburst. So cool. All right, taking one down against Merfolk. We'll be back for the second match. All right, we are back for match 2. Again, we are on the draw. So what does this hand do? The answer is not enough. Only 1 permanent mana source, and then no Cascader even. So this is a mulligan. Oh wait, wait. Join the game. Chooses to not play first. So I think that means they're on Manaless Dredge. This is my guess. We're going to find out. This hand also doesn't do anything, so I'm going to go down to 5. This hand is not quite as bad as my 7. So this is a keep. We're going to need to draw a mana source. So we have the bottom 2 cards. I think the Misdirection is the first card. And then obviously these 3 are not negotiable, so it's just which of these 3. Because this is a Simian Spirit Guide, I think I'm not likely to cast Oko this game. But then again, I don't have blue mana for Dispute. All right, let's bottom Dispute, and then yeah, this hand isn't ideal either because we don't have blue mana, but it's keeps like these where it's like you would keep this with the other configurations of the deck, and just be playing 2 or 3 fewer mana sources than I am. Okay, this is actually hilarious because I will get to stop them from discarding a Dredger for the turn. But is that relevant? It's only relevant if they miss on 5 cards for a Dredger. I don't think it's worth it, so I'm going to not do that. Man, this is rough. Yeah, so I'm happy with my decision because they flipped over Phantasmagorian, which lets them discard their hand as they choose. All right, well, so these games happen with the deck. Sometimes you don't find your requisite mana sources. This deck is definitely very high variance, so that's going to happen sometimes. Definitely something you kind of need to grow a thick skin against if you are going to play a combo deck of this sort. So they're going to Therapias. I think they would name Forcibly here. I'm going to force pitching Force. Maybe force pitching Oko is better so that I have an extra force. But that's hard to say. Okay. We have Liftoff. So green, red, blue, black. So now we have options. We could tick up or we could tick down. Those are, of course, the two options. If we tick up, Charlotte's Agent can block Icarid the next turn. The thing I'm worried about is that they would be able to cast this Hogak from their graveyard. Just black creature, yeah. So they would like exile this. They dredge a lot. I'm probably able to cast Hogak, and then but then I could tick down and kill the Hogak. So that's like worth considering. The problem is I can't cast it because I don't have enough like cards in my graveyard. I could just permanently exile this and still have a blocker for the Icarid and then start ticking up. I guess the issue is if they hit Bridge from Belows, then they can still cast Hogak. I am going to tick up. Because if I tick down and they find a way to get Hogak into play, then I can't deal with it. And obviously, I don't want that to happen. Also, if I get to Ultimate, I do get to exile the graveyard. That's not something I was thinking about. And yet, it's a pretty good line. Although obviously I don't think I will get to I don't think I'm quite gonna make it given the board state. Yeah, because they get this back too. So maybe if I so if I kept the Force instead of the Oko, it wouldn't have mattered because I don't have another blue card in this case, but that doesn't mean it wasn't the right decision. Hard to say, tough stuff. Brutal. All right, so I think it's pretty clear I need to kill this. Obviously, I'm going to cast a Valki, so I'll start with this first just to get the most information. But yeah, that's really brutal because it means that if I were to draw future Cascaders, I still can't. I can't Cascade into a secondary Tibble. And so you may be saying, because we've gone through 2 matches, and in both instances, I have drawn all 3 Tibbles, or I've drawn 2 copies of Tibble and cascaded each other, so don't you want to run 4. But I think that this is a small sample size, and that in general, you don't want to be doing such a thing. I don't think it matters what I take. I'll take the 3-1. And then yeah. Just sucks that they can cast another one. I mean, I had to do this, so. What does this one do? Shuffle cards into your library. Oh, okay, sure. So this is just a way for them to try to return something back and then draw their whole deck. Yep, obviously this resolves. I have no recourse for this one. So the nice thing about this is that I get to force a negation this. So that's good. It's something. It's not nothing. They still get 3 zombies, and I'm probably going to lose to the outpouring of zombies. But it's not nothing, you know. We're fighting. We're fighting here. I can kill this other Hogak if I so desire. I can play a second copy of Valki, which will exile the bridge, which might be what I want to do. Might be too slow. Very hard to say. I'm getting close to be able to casting Hogak 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I guess I'll attack for 2 because if I want to trade, or it's gonna die anyway. So I might as well get in my 2 damage. And obviously if they want to trade, that doesn't matter to me. I will keep this one. Bridge is gone. I'll probably just retake the same card. Yeah, because so Shambling Shell is the best one to take here because if I hit 1 more mana, I have the option to turn this into Shambling Shell, and then this one says sacrifice a creature, put a 1/1 counter on Shambling Shell. So it is a way for me to get rid of Bridge from below once they flip over some more. So I can cast Hogak next turn. It's probably not going to be enough based on the board. So I'm actually just going to concede in the interest of time. This was kind of interesting to think about as far as like what are the best lines I can take to most likely win the game, but they don't actually do enough most of the time. This is maybe So these are maybe. Obviously the Leylands I want. Obviously Throne doesn't do enough. I think Risefall probably doesn't do enough because like they want to discard their hand anyway. And then it's a matter of the forces, like if I want the forces or not. And they all have some application, right? Like Force of Will and Force of Negation can counter Dread Return. Misdirection can misdirect like a Cabal Therapy or a Dread Return to a different creature. Although I guess misdirecting a Dread Return is kind of as good as forcing it in this deck. So this could redirect like Force of Vigor if there was another target for it, but I think most of the time there's not going to be another target for it. I don't think I want this. Maybe this finds action. Maybe just the creatures are something I want just as like blockers and attackers. I could almost see that. But it's probably just better to keep the blue count high. So yeah, let's just keep the blue count high. Is Misdirection better than Mystical Dispute? Probably. It's 0 mana versus 1. So ironically, if they go to like Cabal Therapy themselves or something, I could misdirect it to myself, because if they're doing that, they likely really want to discard what's ever in their hand. Okay, so I think on the or against Manaless Dredge, usually you want to take the draw. So I'm going to do that. What does this do? Not enough. I'm basically looking for Leyline of the Void or a turn 1 Tibalt. This is not a turn 1. So close. So I'm going to mulligan. This has Leyline of the Void, potentially Force to protect it, and then keep. Oh, I guess I'm going to bottom. All right, so keep. Put 2 cards on the bottom, because obviously I just want to hit this the most likely, so I'm going to mulligan those 2. Or actually, so if I draw land, it's kind of... So I'm thinking I could... I guess this doesn't matter, because if they're going to Force a Vigor, they're going to do it on my end of turn. So forcing, yeah, okay, so I'll just put these 2 bottom and just guarantee that I can turn 3 this. Or, sorry. Sorry for taking so long, it's just very close, because it's like Uro can kill Bridge from below, assuming that, you know, they find force for the ley line. No, I'm just going to guarantee this. All right, done. Yeah, boom. Okay. This deck doesn't play Brainstorm, so you can pretty easily fetch to reshuffle cards and whatnot. So I'm going to fetch. So we have blue-green, we need red-black, but I think that we can get black and red through these 2. Basically, I think Badlands is a card you want in your deck. That's kind of funny that we drew it, but I generally try not to fetch it out just because it can't cast Uro. I have enough mana sources though that I can cast Uro no problem. So at this point, this is just going to get a green source when it does fetch. I'm going to leave this 1 fetch uncracked and just see if I want to potentially shuffle in any of my Cascades back into my library, like give myself the chance of drawing them. It was the first card, so I had nothing to shuffle back in. Why did I bring in this? What was I thinking with that again? Did I bring that in and said, what? All right, I must have misclicked during sideboarding. Maybe I thought it was a green creature. I would believe that. All right, and so now we have force protection, so that's pretty good. We even have Dread Return. I don't know if that's useful or not, but we can cast it. Return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sure. Oh, I suppose I should have fetched this during my turn. And I'm pretty sure there's no reason to alt this table because everything's in exile. So I'm just going to get some more card advantage. They get to see more of my deck. I'm fine with that. Oh, I guess I can even cast this guy, huh? Nice little 3/1 body, you know, get the beats on. More than doubles the clock. Okay. So again, play versus draw. Or draw versus play, however you want to say it. Wait, what? See, it was in the sideboard. Oh, it was their Force of Vigor. Oh my god. It was their card. Okay. That makes sense. So they do play Force of Vigor. Makes sense on their part. It's a very wise decision. I think I just run it back. Narset versus... Okay, yeah, this is probably better. Like, Narset can come down and find... like more answers, but I mean, they're both blue cards, and like if I have a leyline in the play, this at least like is hinted to rock. Like while they're looking for answers to it. So I think we will do that. And then on the draw, maybe I just want a blue card over an anger. No, I think anger is just good enough that it's one of those things where it's just like it really doesn't matter too much because I'm mulliganing to force negation or Leyline of the Void and or turn 1 Tibalt. So this is the nuts. I will keep. Feels like cheating. Leyline in your 7 with Force of Will. Okay. I don't want to draw lands, so I'm just going to start thinning now. This is my end step, so if they have the Force of Vigor, that's where they're going to cast it. Obviously fighting. So we're going to get blue-black here. This one will get green-red, and then we'll have a lot of colors online. And so this is, again, Manaless Dredge is not a huge part of the meta, but I want to point out a little bit like why playing more mana sources isn't that big of a detriment. Because like think about this game, like okay, sure we have maybe like 1 or 2 too many mana sources, but that doesn't really matter, right? Like we're casting Tibalt. Like obviously in this one it's silly because like the leyline put us very far ahead, but like just casting your Tibalt usually like puts you in a good spot in the game. And so it's so important to hit your third mana source that I think it's way more important to hit your third mana source than it is detrimental to hit like your fifth and sixth mana sources. Force of Negation is like a reasonable pickup. So I shuffled in one Leyline of the Void. Yeah, okay, so I'll definitely shuffle next turn because I milled over Leyline of Force. I'll fetch black here in case I draw a Leyline of future turns. So we have blue, green, or this one could be either. So we just need to get a blue and or green land out of our deck. So Valk is fine. Unsure if I should be casting these creatures. We have... If they have another Force of Vigor, we don't actually have Force of Will up, so we need to leave up hardcast Force of Negation. So I'm actually just going to take a turn off playing either of these creatures. So the thing about Tibalt is that you can... you can alternate cast the Force of Wills that they exile for their alternate casting costs. So it's almost like these are in your hand. However, they're not for pitch spells already in your hand. So, like Misdirection could pitch Force of Will for its cast, but Force of Will could not pitch Misdirection. I couldn't misdirect a Force of Vigor here because they would just choose both of these as the target. And then you can't hard cast Force of Negation, or you can't alt cast Force Negation on your turn. So I did need to leave up the Force, or and I couldn't force pitching any of these cards, so I had to leave up the hardcast Force Negation. Anyway, long-winded explanation. Leyline won that game. That's kind of what happens when you're a graveyard deck. So we will see you for the last round. All right, we are back for the last round, third round. This hand is interesting because it has interaction. It doesn't have a Cascader, but it has interaction, and then turn 2 Valki, turn 3 Uro. So I think it's good enough to keep, and I think we're just going to rely on the plan B. We have good mana. So I'm going to keep this. And definitely on a little bit, of more middling power level draw. But I think that's okay. So they played Ponder. They chose to shuffle. I'm going to lead on this land instead of the island because if I draw a Rise Fall, I want to be able to cast the fall half of it. So this notably can't get Bayou, unfortunately. Oh, that's so brutal. This not being forcible obviously hurts, but we play the full 4 forces, so it's not like we had another option. What if we just turn 2'd an Oko and then had one piece of interaction? Let's do that. So we're going to forgo black mana, get a tropical island. And hopefully they don't have 2 pieces of interaction. Totally fine if this eats it to a lightning bolt. Just getting rid of the card advantage that this card provides is incredibly important. Also, we could misdirect Lightning Bolt back to the Arcanist if that's something we think is correct to do. That's difficult because it plays into days. But I'm not here to not have fun. So I think this is just, it has a reasonable upside, and it's like we have other things. Sure. Like we have other things that we would like to resolve, notably this Uro. So, you know, you're not going to get, in this deck especially, Uro's just not resolving around a daze. And like that was kind of a 2-for-2 there, huh? Like they traded their Arcanist and a Lightning Bolt for Misdirection blue card. And then this is a 1-for-1 trade. So like all said and done, we're in very good shape here. We're going to play this Uro. We already have 3 cards in graveyard. I'm going to leave that uncracked because I don't mind drawing lands. And I want to see what color, like I want to see if this needs to get black or if this needs to get green. That's such a good draw too, Jesus. And so you can see the power level of the plan B of this deck, just Oko and Uro. In addition to the fetch land mana base. Like Oko is mediocre at best against Delver. That's rough, but you know, what are you gonna do? It's your name. Okay, sure. But Uro is much better against Delver than Oko is. That's a really good draw. Now it's just a matter of what do I want to... This plays around days, so I'm just going to do this one. They didn't have days before, but just based on how the opponent played, doesn't rule out days. Like if I were the opponent and I had a second Lightning Bolt and a daze in my hand, I probably would have not, you know, done anything. So if that makes any sense, like I would not have dazed there if I were the opponent. So I still want to play around it. Sure. Hitting 2 pitch spells is pretty good. Obviously, we will need to draw a blue card at some point, but yeah, a lot of the deck building decisions here are coming up really clutch against Delver, where you know we're playing more mana sources, we're playing Uro. All these are really good. If they double bolt this, that's okay. They did not. It's also okay. Gonna plus here, get some card advantage. So I think it's just better to, like, okay, sure, we could cast Uro, and we have misdirection protection, but I think it's better to just get rid of the last 2 cards in their hand. And like, they might be some combination of like Lightning Bolt and whatnot. Or it might be like hard cast Force Negation. How important is misdirecting that? It sucks to give up a Cascader. Maybe I should have pondered first, huh? The only huge punish is if we draw the 3rd Tybalt again. So I'm just going to let this happen. And even then, like, we have Uro in play, and like we're getting to the point where... Yeah, so I should have cast this first so that I had potentially a different blue card to pitch. All right, so let's do this. Let's put this on the bottom so that, and then play the Shardless Agent the next turn, just so we get the Tybalt. And I think that's better than escaping the Uro, just because it guarantees that it guarantees that we get the last Valki out of our deck and not into our hand. And I think that is pretty important given the way the game is playing out. Like, I know Uro is incredible, but I think so is Tibalt, like here. All right, so we hit 2 mana, which totally fine by me. Now I guess the question becomes, do we want to play the Valki? I think the answer is no. We could actually just hardcast Tibalt next turn if that comes to it. So I think there's no reason to play this out. If they had a creature, they would have played it, you know. I don't know how relevant getting a 2/1 body is on the field. Like, maybe it is because they're at 15, but I think this plus Uro is also just going to be enough. All right. So I'm going to do a little trick here where I want to thin my library. Before I exile the top card of it, but I also want to make sure this Planeswalker activates. So I'm just going to hold priority. And this is just a strictly better way to do it. Because like say they had something like a Brazen Borrower and they had like decided not to use it or like wanted to wait or something. And then they said, oh, he's fetching. Okay, I've changed my mind. I'm going to bounce the Tibalt. Well, then we wouldn't get our activation, and that would be bad. So green, blue. Cool. All right, so blue-red Delver. Big difference from Rug Delver. Like I said, I like Tarmogoyf a good amount. It just lines up pretty well against what they're doing. It can usually survive a Lightning Bolt as long as a sorcery has been cast and there's a land in the graveyard, which I think happens commonly enough. The issue of... I usually like the angers. So like these are the definites. This is a definite. The ones I'm a little less certain of are stuff like this. Usually if the opponent is playing Stifle, I don't bring these in and leave in more force effects because you're just less likely to hit, you know, get to that point in the curve. And I think because this deck is getting a little more popular, like Stifle is a pretty common. Oh, I also want these for Dreadhorde. Yeah, Stifle is like becoming increasingly common, although we didn't see it in the first game. So I'm going to... I usually cut 1 Spirit Guide and 1 Outburst, just because the games usually go long, and like it's not uncommon for you to run out of things to cascade into, and you just don't want that many dead draws in your deck. And then against the Stifle build, against the Stifle build, I actually do leave in all the guides. So I need 1 more cut. So it's either Throne or Misdirection, basically, because we haven't seen Stifle yet, but or we'll even Force Negation. Or cut Force Negation. All right, yeah. So we're going to do this. We're going to leave in 6 forces and leave in the Throne. And hope to see what happens. And then if it turns out they are playing Stifle, I will cut the Throne for another force. This has no lands, so I will mulligan this one. This is much better. Certainly keeping. Probably bottoming 1 copy of Rise Fall. We just need all the mana sources. and then this is a interaction. So Ponder not being Delver, really clutch here. Drawing a Cascader, also pretty clutch. So here what I'm likely to do is go turn 2 fall, turn 3 Shardless Agent. If I draw a land, that's very nice because I'm going to do this. So let's get blue-black. No, let's get blue-red. Blue-red, green-black. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to do this because, like I said, I'm planning to tap out for the next few turns. And so I just want to be mana efficient. And then they don't have any lands in hand. So unless they have days. Oh, okay, so that's interesting. So now we have lines. So we could play this around days. We could play this into days, but with a piece of interaction. They have 6 cards in hand, though. I am just going to... But if they peel Wasteland... Like, the problem is if they peel Wasteland, basically. But, like, they have 6 cards in hand. No lands. It's Delver. Like, the chance of them having 2 pieces of interaction is very high. So I think I'm just going to lead with fall. And then, if they daze it, I think I'm going to let that resolve. Because I don't have a 3rd mana source right now. Okay. And also daze makes fall a little bit worse because then there's the chance that it reveals the land and then they don't discard it. Okay. That's fine. All right, so we hit 2 cards. That's good. We drew a blue card. That's good. So we could tick down, kill the Delver, but then it dies to Lightning Bolt, whereas if we tick up, it can take a Delver hit and survive Lightning Bolt. And also ticking up gives us 2 more shots at a land, which is good because we have the 0 in hand. I think you usually want to tick up against Delver, especially. That's pretty sweet. I'm actually going to bolt this with the trigger on the stack. It gives me less information, but it gives them less information too. And I think that's worth it given how far ahead we are. Don't know what this is for. So we are just going to keep on the... Oh, okay, so this stops Uro, but it doesn't stop Cascade cards because you're not casting it from the graveyard. So I'm going to start by going to attacks. And then I will play out the Uro. I have no 1 mana spells in the deck. Although, okay, I guess if I hit another fall, I would consider casting it with the Spirit Guide, so it's just strictly correct to leave up a black mana source. So that's what I'm going to do. And see, so one of the things that I think makes the having 21 or 22 lands especially reasonable in your deck is that you're playing some of the... I could misdirect this. Is it worth a 2-for-1? What else am I misdirecting? But alternatively, how else am I losing, like, if this stays in play? And alts. Yeah, it's fine. Sorry, so what I was saying is I think that most builds should probably be adding a couple more mana sources, and I think they should be the cycle lands because if you flood, you just cycle them. But getting to your third mana source is so important, whereas, you know, oh no, I hit my 5th land. Like, it's, first of all, it's not a detriment. I'm super winning the game. Second of all, if it was, I could cycle it. So I think this is the right build where you want Rise Fall and you want the cycle lands. I don't care about that. I actually think I will cycle now, though, to potentially find more interaction. Because I want to ult the Tibalt. Like, what do I lose to? Tibalt ulting loses to Stifle plus what? I can't think of a card. I can't think of a 1 card that would stop the Force of Will. As long as I don't hard cast it, you know. All right, so I'm gonna do this. Cool. So I'm gonna start with a Ponder. Anger's probably fine, just like as a backup. No. I will fetch. I'm pondering again. I'm just looking for more blue cards in hand for these counter spells. And then I'm going to fall my opponent to take the last card out of hand. That's a blue card, so that counts. Fall. Red, black. And then I'm going to play out the Goyf, probably. Cool. We got there. All right. Trophy. I haven't filmed that many videos, but I have yet to trophy in any of them, which, you know, considering I've been second place in the trophy race for the last 2 sprints, was kind of a travesty. So happy to display this beautiful deck for you all and do well on, you know, one of the videos. You know, that being said, obviously I've played, you know, probably 20 times more leagues than I have, you know, made videos of me filming them. So that's that. So yeah, this is the deck. I have actually made a couple changes since I started the league. Just some really small things. I cut the Thrun for a 20-second land, and then I added a second Tarmogoyf in the sideboard because it was so good against Delver that I just wanted them more often. Didn't mind if I cascaded into it slightly more often, which is good enough to win usually. Swapped 1 Anger for a Rough Tumble. It can't come in against Delver, but double red is kind of hard sometimes. And then Plague Engineer over the Massacre because Plague Engineer has felt good enough against Death and Taxes and better against all the other decks that you would want it for, like Elves, just because it's 3 mana versus 4. So yeah, that's the deck. I think any other changes I'd make, I'd probably want to find room for 1 more Mystical Dispute somewhere. I'm not sure where. It's just been performing really well. It's pretty good in the mirror. But that being said, this is the deck. I think that this build in particular is pretty powerful because I think I've got it to a point where my Delver matchup is favorable. Although, you know, every person who brews a deck says that. My stats don't lie, you know, scoreboard. This was a Delver matchup that I also managed to win. And then I think my 4-color control matchup is fine too. This was actually 4-color control. I might put out a separate video just like going through the replays of these two, just because I think it's good to highlight kind of how the deck fares against two of the better decks in the format. And Miracles in particular is one where the sideboard green creatures that you can't counter shine pretty well. You don't bring in Goyf against Miracles, but these two you do, and they're good. So yeah, that's the deck. Hope you enjoyed this exhibition. And there's certainly plenty of ways to beat this deck if you want to. There's plenty of cards you can use to answer Valki, but and as people start adding more of those into their deck, we'll see if this can exist or survive in the metagame. But right now, it's really fun to play. I've really enjoyed this as far as like a deck building challenge has gone. Like, what's the best configuration of this deck? And I'm happy to share it with you all. So I will see you in the next video soon. Bye, guys.